Yep. All righty, thank you. All right, we're going to begin here shortly. If you can ensure your cell phones are off or on vibrate. And council members, ensure your microphones are turned on.
HN.
I thought she was going to do the John Cena. Do you see that?
I'm just gonna jump over.
No, she's not paying attention.
That would have been funny.
All right, good evening, everybody. Today is July 15th, 2024. This is a committee of the whole meeting for Barberton City Council. Before we begin our committee of the whole meeting, we do have individual committee meetings this evening. We do have a special city utilities committee meeting that we are going to do first. So first up is city utilities. This is a special meeting with Mr. Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today is July 15th. We are in council chambers. All members of my committee are present. Myself, Chair Jeff Hager, Emily Beck, and Justin Drew, and all others noted. We have one request for legislation to call for tonight. A letter from Todd Freed, Director of Public Service, requesting legislation authorizing the mayor to prepare and submit an application with the Ohio Public Works Commission, OPWC, for 4 infrastructure projects. Emergency wording requested. Please see request reference from streets. Mr. Freed?
Yes, sir.
Would you like to iterate on this?
So what we're doing is we're just asking for legislation in order to apply for OPWC funding. 2 of them are actually 3 of them are water main projects to improve our infrastructure. And then the last one is Mr. Tedecki has done concrete road assessment, and we're applying for funding to start a concrete road replacement program also.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Do we have any discussion, any questions?
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
On it says the East Side Water Line Replacement Project, Fairview Avenue to Macy Avenue. What street are we talking about?
So that's actually behind Malco and Right Tool. That actually makes a major connection between 2 water sections to provide better circulation, better water quality, better quantity. And in addition, we'll do some replacement of any lead and galvanized water services in the neighborhood. We applied for an appropriation successfully. We should be getting some money for that, provided federal government and all that makes it through their part of the process. So proactively, there's still some money that we still need to do to provide locally for our share. So we're going to apply for OPWC money, and applications like that typically become very successful when you get federal money, a larger project, water line. So we're going to try and go after some of the local share to go with OPWC to provide water quality upgrades in that area.
Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to call for this?
You have to invoke council rule.
I would invoke Council Rule 702 to suspend Council Rule 302.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, do we have a motion to call for this piece of legislation?
I'll make a motion.
Oop.
Second. I'll second.
You'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. I want to remind everybody that Mrs. Beck isn't here. I said all members are present, but she isn't here. So, do you have any discussion? Anybody? Motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Brewer. Second?
I'll second.
We are adjourned at 6:05. With that, I pass.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. All right, we're going to jump into our normal agenda, and we'll hit up street, sidewalk, and lighting with Mrs. Beck. Mrs. Beck is absent, so the chair, Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Mr. President. This time I'd like to bring the Street, Sidewalks, and Lighting Committee to order. It's Monday, July 15th. It's 6:05 PM. We're in council chambers. All members of the committee are present, excluding Ms. Beck, who is the chair. All council members and others are noted on the sheet. We have two requests for legislation. The first one is a letter from Michael Teodecki requesting legislation to enter into contract with GPD Group, Inc. for preliminary engineering for Worcester Road North at West Hopkinton Avenue roundabout. Emergency wording requested. This matter is being held awaiting the results of the discussion in the Planning Commission, which will be Wednesday, the 17th. And then we will have a special Streets Committee meeting on Monday, July 22nd for further discussion prior to the August recess. Any questions on that? Mr. Greer.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. I just want to mention, I can compile a list, but I was just talking to the clerk today. Outside of a few projects in the city of Barberton, this is one project that I've received a ton of responses about.
I have also.
I'll be happy to forward those to the chair and
Okay.
the administration.
All right. Anything else? Valerie? Nothing. Second piece of legislation request is a letter from Todd Shreve, Director of Public Service, requesting legislation authorizing the mayor to prepare and submit an application with the Ohio Public Works Commission, OPWC, for 4 infrastructure projects. Emergency wording requested. This is the same thing that's coming out of utilities. I'd like to invoke Council Rule 702 to suspend Council Rule 302.
So moved.
Now second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nays? And then can I get a motion to call it out of committee?
So moved.
And I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Motion passed. Call it to committee. Any miscellaneous? Anybody from council? The gallery? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? We are adjourned at 6:07 PM.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Next up is Environmental Health and Social Services with Mrs. Hager.
Thank you, President Greer. Environmental Health and Social Services is meeting in council chambers July 15th, 2024. The time is 6:08 PM. All members of my committee are present. Myself as chair, Shorter Griffin, Taylor Thompson, and Justin Greer. All other members of council are present except for Emily Beck, as well as guests on my sheet. We have no requests for legislation, no pending legislation. Would just like to mention, be very careful this summer. I'm getting reports from people, there's a lot of fleas and especially ticks in just normal backyards, not in wooded backyards. I actually got a tick on myself in my own backyard, and it's the first time in my entire life that I've ever had a tick on me. So, be cautious. I need to reach out to the mosquito abatement and see if when they spray, if that also kills ticks as well as mosquitoes. But I do know you can get, and I know I've said this before, but you can get one free spraying in your yard specifically for your property And if you have a lot of issues, they will work with you. So, you can always call and check in on that. But with the way things have been this season, it might not be a bad idea to check into that. Do I have any miscellaneous from my committee or the body? Yes.
I've been getting complaints about the mosquito truck.
Mm-hmm.
They've been coming around, instead of in the evening, they come around in the morning.
I know they can come around, they will come around early in the morning, but I'm not sure. It's supposed to be like before, I believe when I spoke to Andy, it's before 9 o'clock in the morning. I think because they want to get in before like the dew dries. So that way it kind of gets in there and settles and doesn't dry out. But if the neighbors, if they have a complaint about it, you can actually, if they don't want anything sprayed near their yard, they can call and they'll stop spraying a certain number of feet before their property, and they won't start until a certain number of feet after their property. So if they have any concerns or anything, they can always call down there and speak to Andy, and he can assist them with any questions they have.
Well, this truck, from my understanding, some kids there, and I think the truck just completely disregarded of being there. And then
Oh, wow.
this person told me, it was very terrible, that they confronted the driver, and he got kind of smart, and he went around and did it again. So that's all I have to say. I didn't see it, but I know the person that told me wouldn't make it up. So it'd be
Yeah, I
something
mean,
to,
if if anything ever happens like that, I mean, I would definitely, number one, I believe the trucks are numbered or have some kind of identifying mark, so you can call down there. I mean, I would definitely immediately call down there and leave a message, or call down and, the very next morning or whenever. But yeah, I would definitely have them call down and talk to Andy and let him know what happened and stuff, so that way he's aware of it. And, because I'm sure there's I would imagine they'd have some kind of rule if you've literally got kids out playing in the front yard, that, they would, say, hey, or they'd stop and, I don't know what their protocol is, but yeah, I would definitely call Andy, and I can even call him and just see what the protocol is for that.
Right, I appreciate it.
Just so that way I know myself.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, you're very welcome. Anyone else? Yes.
Thank you, Chair. The yard treatment and fogging they do, if you request it, is effective against fleas and ticks.
Cool, thank you very much. As I smushed that little bugger and set him on fire. Anyone else? Anyone from the gallery? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
We are adjourned at 6:13.
Thank you, Ms. Hager. Next up is Planning, Annexation, and Codes with Mr. Haddock.
Thank you, Mr. President. Planning, Annexation, and Codes is Monday, July 15th, 2024. It is 6:13 in council chambers. The committee is present, which consists of Councilors Harris, Thompson, President Greer, and myself as chair. All those noted. No request for legislation. We do have an appointment request. It is for David Sykes to the Barberton Board of Zoning Appeals for a term starting immediately and running through December 31st, 2028. Did everybody get the questionnaire application? I'm sure we're all aware of who Mr. Sykes is. Is there any comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion to call for this appointment?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Those in favor?
Aye.
And that's it. Anybody have any comments? Planning Commission's Wednesday evening. After that, I got nothing. Anybody else? Body, gallery, Counselor?
Thank you. I will let you know that I have also gotten some feedback regarding the roundabout situation, and I have let people know that they can also attend planning commission as well and speak there, so, just so you know. That's all.
Thank you. Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. We are adjourned at 6:15.
Thank you, Mr. Heidick. Last but not least, Finance and Personnel with Ms. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to bring Finance and Personnel Committee to order. It is Monday, July 15th, 2024, 6:15 PM here in Council Chambers. All members of the committee are present, which includes myself as chair, Mr. Heidick, Mr. Griffin, Mr. Greer. All other council members are present, with the exception of Mrs. Beck, and all others noted on my sheet. We have a few requests for legislation, the first being a letter from Jeremy Flaker requesting legislation to transfer $8,000 from the water fund to the general fund. One reading and emergency wording is requested. Are there any remarks? Hearing none, can I have a motion to call, please?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, and a second.
One second.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next we have another letter from Jeremy Flaker requesting legislation to transfer the $8,000 from the unappropriated item of the general fund to the law department's operating budget of the general fund. One reading, emergency wording requested on this one as well. Are there any remarks? Hearing none, can I have a motion to call, please?
So moved.
Thank you, and a second.
I will second that.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next we have a referral from Parks, a letter from Mayor Judge requesting an ordinance approving the lease of buildings located at 459 through 467 West Tuscarawas Avenue and 94 Worcester Road North, commonly known as the Cox Powell Harold Buildings, with tenant Historic Harold Powell LLC. Emergency wording is requested. And I believe they were coming to give a presentation this evening. I'm not 100% sure if that's where Mayor Judge just went, so, okay. Are we ready? Yeah.
Oh, grand incest, we need some.
That was the most perfectly timed arrival ever.
That, yeah, yep.
Yes.
Do you have like an automatic thing, or do you want me to, just nod to me and I'll change the pages?
Automatic is the speaker, no change.
It's not automatic, so if you just, we'll give you
Yeah,
an nod.
that's not a problem.
Okay. Thank you.
So, Chair, I couldn't hear you if you said anything about this, but because I walked in the hallway. But, with your permission, I'd like to invite the Historic Harold Powell LLC and company up to give a presentation on the legislation in front of council for the lease agreement for 459 through 467 West Tuscarawas Avenue.
Thank you. Yep, if you could just step up to the microphone, introduce yourself, and...
I am Steve Kuhn, part of the development team to develop the project here in Barberton. And we brought our architects here with us to give a little more detail. Ike, from what the concept that Ike, maybe you were presented before, looked at, we've tweaked this one, and it's actually a lot different, and it's more units, and it's, I think, for the good, and it'll, I think, promote the building and the community a lot better. So we asked George to come up from Columbus, and he has. So he'll kind of walk us through his presentation, and then any questions after that, myself or Brett Havertick will come back up to the mic and answer them. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to probably refer to some of my notes. I got back in late.
Just nod at me, point at me, and I'll change the slide.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to mention, thank you, first of all, for hearing this. My name is George Berardi. My firm is Berardi Partners. We're architects and engineers. We're based in Columbus. We have an office in Cleveland, of course, as well. And our work is in Cleveland, in fact, is largely based on historic repositioning of existing buildings. Some of the largest buildings downtown, probably with the exception of the Terminal Tower, are buildings that we've repositioned, rehabbed with historic tax credits, and ODSA as well. Maybe you're already familiar with some of them, but this is an opportunity that Steve brought to us, which, the first thing that we saw was that it could re-energize that intersection. TJ and I drove around for about an hour and a half before coming in here this evening, and went by the lake, by the way, which we think is just absolutely beautiful. But the other thing is that we went along all the byways, from Worcester that go into the city that really start to connect to the historic sections of the city, really. And we really recognize that where we are at Tuscarora is. It may be south, but it's one of the principal access points really off of Worcester into the historic center of the city, really. And I think the idea here overall, and you can see on this, well, you know what, if you can flip that to this drawing, that might be helpful. Yeah, that's it. So the blue building is really the building that we're discussing. It's really two buildings. They were built up. You probably don't know the entire history of these buildings. The Powell was built, which is the corner building, which had so many different uses: automotive, tires, other commercial uses as well. And that was built in 1925. The Herald building next to it was the newspaper building. That was built in 28 later on. I'm not quite sure what the connection between the two of them, other than the physical connection. I'm not quite sure the ownership connection between them, but they are definitely, one piece of real estate. We saw this as an opportunity, again, as I said, really to energize that intersection that really says something different, than what it does right now. Right now, all it does say really is we're boarded up. We're a boarded up building, and we want to try to see about, coming back and bringing some energy activity to the space. One of the things that we're doing is obviously a combination. It's a mixed-use building, of course, as you well know. But one of the things that we're doing is we're populating portions of along Tuscarora's on the south edge of Tuscarora's, on the south edge of the building at Tuscarora's, with some commercial spaces. So again, the mixed-use component, plays into it. The open area, which is now the ramp that goes down where the parking garage was beneath the building, which, by the way, we're going to re-energize anyway. We're going to use that for our facility as well. We'll still be there, but we're going to go ahead and cap it off and make it a larger plaza, and it'll have some festive, events, some festive look and architecture associated with it. We haven't quite defined it, but we want it to be more than just an open deck. And one of the things that needs to be pointed out here as well is the east side of the building is really, it looks like somebody beat the heck out of it, and we're working with Historic Preservation Office to see what really we can do. One of the things that we've experienced before with SHPO is that we've been able to add some windows, and right now there's evidence of some openings that were there, so the idea is to bring some of the windows that were along Tuscarora's and wrap them along the side. And again, that brings a little activity to that space, but, you know, that, the plaza will be an active environment. That's really the goal. And it will be open into the first floor of what would be a commercial space. What sort of venue is it? Could it be a bar? I mean, I hate to mention anything. Could it be a restaurant? Could it be a coffee shop? It could be almost anything, but something that really that brings the interior to the exterior so that it has more than just seasonal use anyway. Up above and really to the rear of both the Powell building and the other building, of course, will be residential facilities that will be included on the second floor as well. So we're opening up that to the alley, and I think that most of you know what the alley side looks like right now. We're working again with SHPO to see about adding and opening some of those walls where there may be windows back there, because the idea is that we're going to have residential units on the second floor and the rear of the first floor as well. So again, that mixed-use component comes into play, you know, in a good way here. The lower level, as I indicated, of the Powell building will be retained as a parking garage. The lower level of the Herald building, we're going to restore, right, the printing press. And the idea there was, I think I might have indicated something in one of the renderings where we want to make it a speakeasy or a rat skeller. We're doing that in a bank in downtown Columbus right now. It's a large space. It's about 15,000, 18,000 square feet, and it really works really well in the middle of downtown. So, I mean, the whole idea, and by the way, that one is tied to a restaurant as well. So it's kind of interesting that, you know, we can play both sides of it. So the building obviously needs a little bit of everything, and I think that one of the things that really happens here with historic preservation is we have to pay a great deal of attention to the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation, which we do, obviously. I mean, we're pretty well experienced in that. And so we're not going to have many difficulties with that part. One of the things that, you know, the building is part painted and part not. We're offering one suggestion where we might be able to paint the building, and that's still something that, while we like it, may have to still go through some machinations in order to get it approved. And I don't know how you all feel about it, but, you know, obviously, you know, we could take it back to the brick, at least on the Tuscarora side, but on the east side of the building, which is really, I'm going to use an architectural term here, where the east side of the building is really kind of butchered. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of saying about it. I mean, it's broken. Let's put it that way. Maybe it's broken. And, you know, one of the thoughts that I had earlier when we were looking at it was, is there a way to coat the building? There's a stucco coating on the first floor. Is there a way to either laminate it in some way with a stucco coating or some sort of a coating to make it uniform? And again, as I indicated, I want to go ahead and wrap some of the windows and some of the details that are on the face of the building, wrap them around the east side of the building to really have that connection, rather than, you know, you see some of the details that are tied to the windows, the heads and sills of the windows, and then they stop right at the corner. And I just wanted to wrap them a little bit. There's a rendering somewhere, TJ. Maybe you can maybe you can flip through these things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, hold on there. Let's see if there's anything else that I wanted to say about this. I think that, again, the whole idea is to energize the plaza, really populate that, and obviously, you know, you see the ramp that goes down. There's a ramp that went up to a loading dock, and that'll be filled in, and that'll become part of that dock, that space. It'll be the plaza area, the activity area. And by the way, you know, we talk about, I know that I saw on RFP that talked about security. Yeah, I mean, you know, the whole idea here is that this will be a secure environment. I mean, we practice pretty well with cameras and a whole variety of things. Walls where you know, where we're talking about, we're actually talking about having a little bit of a wall recessed off of the sidewalk along Tuscaroras with a gated area there. And I think that right now, at least, we're talking about the principal access to the plaza would be from that commercial space into the plaza, but, you know, it might be something else as well. So those things are all things that, you know, are all issues that we're still studying. But again, I keep using that term: energize, activate, populate. I think those are the things that we want to try to do with this entire corner. So let's go to the next slide if we can. Sorry about that. Yeah, well, you're looking, yeah, we could stay there for just a second. I'll run through each one of them if you don't mind. I mean, a lot of the spaces, the blue space on the left is what I was talking about, is maybe being, some sort of an event center of some sort. And that's where the printing press is that'll be restored. So the intent here is to keep that there as a landmark. But I think that, what's the use of that space going to be? I think that that'll be determined along the way. It depends on market conditions and see who wants to be there. And so those things are being determined right now. The rest of the spaces, the color that you're seeing are either elevators, stairs, mechanical spaces, a real variety of special spaces and accommodations really that support the building above. And again, the ramp is coming down and enters the building at the lower level where it enters it now. We've digitized the entire building, all floors in the lower level, so we know exactly where everything is. At least the digital people, that are transposing our files tell us that we're within 1/8 of an inch. I believe them. But, we can go. Yeah, this is really the first floor with commercial space. The light blue at the bottom, and at the left being the Herald Building. Would be, commercial spaces. And again, the lower space is the place where we're connecting into the plaza. The others are, there's an area you'll see between the two slivers, the sort of yellow and pink sort of color. It's white. That's an atrium right now that exists on the second floor. We're intending to open that up to the lower level in order to bring some natural light into those units. And the units in the back, the sort of tan units, are off the alley. And those are the ones really that I'm sort of wrestling in terms of adding windows there. Wrestling meaning with, Historic Preservation Office, because they're always questioning about adding openings where, openings were not before. But I think that in order to make the space usable, I think we really need to do that. Although I will say there are openings there that are usable, certainly, that, we can open back up again that were blocked in or bricked in. But the point with that is that they're not where I want them.
What if I could say one thing?
Please.
George is actually dealing with two different entities. There's the National Park Service, which sets the standards on historic preservation. Then there's the State Historic Preservation Office. So really, he's got to do that balancing act between what they want and what SHIP, he refers to as SHIPO, it's the State Historic Preservation Office. And it's really kind of a balancing act. And he's able to deal with them way better than I am. I always say something that comes back to haunt me, but I leave it up to George. He's got a great relationship with SHIPO and the Park Service. So, I meet with him. We talk about what we want to do, and one of them was bringing that atrium down to that first level, and it gave us 4 more units that we didn't have. And the whole idea is to get people to live, work, and play in downtown Barberton, and he was able to pick up 4 more units that weren't there. So a lot different way of looking at it than just the quick look. And they spent a lot of time on this. We've had multiple meetings, and the drawings just keep evolving, and I think we're probably just about there with, he listens to us when we sit down and talk. I want to do this and this, and no, you can't do that because of this, but what if we do this? And it's been a great relationship, so I feel we've really got something special here. Great.
No, that's it, thanks. I appreciate the comment. I think there's no real secret to all this. I mean, it's kind of listening to people and doing what they want. Doing what's really most reasonable, let's put it this way, especially with the 2 offices that were just mentioned. So that's really it. And if you go up to the next floor, you really basically see something similar again. On the Herald side, you have 2 larger units. Some of those units are fairly large, or well over 1,100 square feet, so those are really good sized units. And the way that we design units, at least the way I do it, is really kind of interesting. They don't look like standard units. They're a little bit more forward thinking, but anyway. So anyway, that's, we had a look at this, and that's my, I guess that's my preamble, and Steve will be available to, go over any other questions that you may have. Yeah, you flip to the elevations, and that's really.
Show that plaza, that would be something to change.
Yeah, just
keep flipping it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice view between landscaping and developing the plaza. And you can see the wall that I was talking about there, where the 2 people that are walking or 3 people that are standing there really started to create an enclosure there to really help us and really make it a defensible environment for us, really. Yeah, that's a different color. And so, yeah, so that's a view again towards Worcester to the east, and yeah, again, it's something that you can see. I mean, we're showing cars and people and bikes, and I don't see any airplanes or birds, but I mean, we're reactivating, and all of our buildings that you look around the country that we've rehabbed, that we've repositioned, pretty much behave this way. I mean, it's real. It really happens this way. And that is the plaza. Yeah.
That's going to be very special and unique, and really this is just what you hear it, you need your environment. I mean, it's the beginning.
I think that TJ added a little bit of a dog area there too when we were doing the planning on the previous, just a little dog park anyway. But this would be the Rathskeller. What I'm referring to is the speakeasy, and again the printing press would still be there, and dark brooding, and it could be a really nice environment, like a coffee shop, to go down and do some work. So anyway, I think it could be a lot of fun. Good, yeah, thanks.
Are there any questions from council?
Did you have your hand? By all means, Mr. President.
Well, thank you, Chair. Or not Chair. Thank you, Mr. Haddock.
That's all right.
Thank you, Chair. Mayor, I do have a question, and it involves not this. Thank you guys for coming in. This is great. I personally think it's great. I do have a question though about, are we also offering the alleyway? Because we did approve that to be converted over and closed in. Is that part of this?
Yeah, I don't recall talking to you guys about that, but
I don't think we've gotten that far yet. It's just we're really on the building right now. But believe me, we're going to be back to this is still going to evolve.
yeah, and
It's probably 90% of the way there. So.
the thought was always to make sure State Street Tire has access to their shop from back there, but to make the alleyway more usable, brighten it up, maybe put some, if SHPO would allow it, maybe some artwork on the buildings, work with State Street Tire and the other buildings there to make it more pedestrian
Maybe
friendly.
a little lighting, a little building mounted lighting, but that might not work.
But no painting on the side of the
We're
building.
going to be lucky to get window.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring it up because I personally think that's a great idea for the alleyway, and I know it was part of the other, well, it wasn't part of, but it was in the subset of things with it, and just wanted to make sure that it was
We can
on the radar.
Make it more user-friendly, but, we still have utility lines underneath the alley there as well.
That's all I have, Chair. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Heidick, you have questions?
Thank you, Chair. When you were going through the renderings, on the first floor, did you mention residential units and apartments?
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but in that district, that's prohibited. Am I correct? Wasn't that a problem with the last developers that came in? They wanted to put apartments
I'd
down
have to
there.
check my notes and check with the planning department.
Okay. I just remember that being an issue, that they had to come back with new
Why would
drawings.
that be prohibitive?
It's I believe in the historic district, ground floor living is prohibited.
I got that at the MS tool. It's great.
There's an interesting point to be made, is that where the units are on the north side of the building, that's quite a bit elevated off the alley. Only the units there are 2 units on the west corner at the Powell side that are closer to grade level, but the rest of the units in the back of the Harold building I meant.
Right.
But on the Powell building, the larger building, of course, the units are elevated on, probably finished floor, maybe 4 or 5 feet off of grade level from, and I don't know if it's a safety concern or just a.
I believe it's just in our zoning code.
Yeah,
that-
I think commercial.
Yeah, we'd have to check with planning to see, based on the elevation and what the rules say, because the example that you're thinking of, it was right with the sidewalk. There's no step ups. Yeah.
Ours are elevated.
But we'd have to check to see for sure.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't want to see them get too far
Well,
just
no,
for
we
something
have
like
approved
that.
drawings before we move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we can check on that as well for you and get a clarification on that. there is a process that's not guaranteed, but an appeals process.
Sure.
So,
Thank you, that's all I had.
Okay. That's a great question. I was wondering the same thing because I'm almost positive we had that same thing come up during Planning Commission on Tusk, right back here. So, yeah, we'll definitely find that out. Ms. Gearhart, did you have some questions?
I do, thank you. Mr. Kuhn, for the lease agreement, have you done this type of, had a lease agreement so you could go apply for the grants and stuff before?
Yes, I have.
What's that look like?
Well, we're going to make the application the end of August, and then it'll officially go into the Ohio Department of Development on the end of September, and we'll know probably the second week of December if we were able to get the grants.
Okay.
So, but, it's based on a point system, and George has already gone through that, and way more thorough than how I do it.
Okay.
But it looks like we're probably going to have enough points to make that work. I mean, just like, you're like 71, right? And 71, 70, I mean, we're right there, so,
So you feel good about it?
Yeah, I feel real good.
Good, okay.
So,
Okay. I will say, if there's any more questions for Mr. Kuhn, if you could please step up to the microphone, maybe we can move it over, just so that people can hear. We do live stream our meetings as well as use the video for minutes. Sorry. So, but again, thank you for being here and presenting. I think we were all a little disappointed when the last developers kind of fell through, but just thinking that something good can come of this building is amazing. So, are there any more questions for Mr. Kuhn while he's up here? Mr. Heidick?
One last one, it's an easy one. Can we have that in an email, the presentation, or no?
yes, I think we can just give you the thumb drive here and you can have it, so.
No?
there was a couple things, but we'll make sure that it,
What I'll do is I'll take it down during break. We are having one, right?
Yep.
I'll put just that presentation on my computer. I'll bring you back your drive and I'll email it out to all the council and mayor if you want it as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
Someone will grab the drive back.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. I'll bring it right back.
I think that's all the questions that council has for you. Again, thanks for being here. You made it in perfect timing.
This worked out better than last time. I think it was 12:30 when I got home. It was a late night then. So
Yes.
Thank you for getting us on early. So. George's got to drive back to Columbus, so.
Oh, boy.
Well, safe travels to you guys. Thanks again. Okay. Hearing no other questions, do I have a motion to call for this?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. In a second.
Second.
All right. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I think I heard everybody opposed. Nope. Okay, good. Okay. Situated. Okay, moving along. Next up, we have a letter from Todd Shreve, Director of Public Service, requesting legislation to certify to the Summit County Auditor special assessments against certain properties. Request is attached. Emergency wording is requested. Are there any questions regarding this request? Yes, Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Chair. Director, that email still never came through. I don't know if it's my email or what that you had.
Did IT ever contact you?
No.
Okay, I gave
I'm
them
getting
your email
emails, I
and
just
asked
didn't
them
get
to work
that
directly
one.
with you.
I was just looking for just a number of how many private lots we had to mow.
Okay, so give me 1 second. I will see if I can pull those up. Because I know you and I went back and forth a couple of times. And then I finally was working with Chad with IT and was trying to get him to work directly with you because me being the IT guy in between wasn't working. Okay. So Marcia provided me data from, starting all the way back at, 2014. So 2014, we mowed, private properties that were mowed was 197. 15 was 332. 16 was 164. 17 was 162. 18 was 189. 19 was 143. In 20, it was 144. In 21, during the pandemic, everybody was home, so they mowed the grass, so it was only at 86. At 22, it was 119, and then in 23, it was 129 properties. So the numbers have went down. So some of it is because our assessment went up. So I think people realized, hey, I don't want to pay that elevated assessment, so they're mowing more of the grass. So we are moving in the right direction, and then selling some of these city properties will give us more time too to make sure that we're taking care of things the way that we need to.
Okay, and how's it going this year so far? You said it's still going down, or?
So I mean, yeah, we're only really halfway through our mowing.
Right.
And so I mean, the numbers have decreased, but we're probably on average right around that 120 still.
Okay. Mrs. Miller, did you have something?
I just had a question. Is that the numbers we're assessing or the numbers we're actually mowing?
I believe that is the assessed properties.
Right, so we could be mowing way more than that because we would just book the bill and people would pay.
We could mow, one of those properties could have been mowed 3 times, but we're still mowing. That is the amount of
Well,
properties.
I think Mr. Heidi's question was how many properties are we mowing?
Yes.
Is that your question?
This isn't the amount of times that we mowed. This is the amount of properties.
Okay, let me clarify. Let's say there are 50 houses. We could mow 50 houses but only assess 10 because 40 pay.
Okay, so this is the data of us physically mowing.
But have any of those paid?
I don't know that if these are assessed. I don't know if these are, these are private properties that we physically go out and mow. So I don't know as far as assessments go if these were all assessed.
I'm just asking because I'm asking because now I'm confused on my end. Marcia, so the street department gives Marcia figures to send bills for mowing?
We tag, so the building department tags. So when that property is tagged, there's a spreadsheet that is created, this property is tagged. That is created in the building department. All of them in the building department have that access to that same file. And then it is sent to streets. And then streets would, A, go out and mow it, B, put back in the spreadsheet that it had already been mowed, no further actions necessary.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
Were there any other questions before Mr. Shreve sits down?
Not to drag this out, Chair,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
I do have one. I just wanted to make sure that in 2015, did you say 332?
332 is the number that I was given, yes.
Okay, all right.
I know that number sounded odd, something may have been transposed. There was also, I know that at one point in time, spreadsheets got duplicated, so it may have been a
double
technicality there,
situation.
but that was the number that I was given.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
All right. With nothing else, do I have a motion to call for this?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Mr. Heidig made the motion, Mr. Griffin second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next we have a letter from Jamie Eisman, Director of Public Safety, requesting legislation to amend Ordinance 63-2021. One reading and emergency worded is requested. I am going to request that we amend this to say, if you pull up the request where it says part-time building official or plans examiner, it needs to be changed to part-time building official and or plans examiner. It's in, plans examiner's in bold right in the middle of the page.
Oh, in the letter, I'm sorry.
Yep.
I'm on the draft. Sorry.
Does everybody see where I'm at?
And or.
Yep, and or.
I'll see the draft as well.
So, before we call for this, can I have a motion to add "and" into this?
Okay, you can do it.
Is that okay?
It was never called on, so you can
I didn't.
make it however you want.
Okay.
Currently.
We'll go ahead and change it and then call for it. So, Mr. Griffin on the change, and then a second for that.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at the draft and I don't see the positions in the draft.
I'm looking at the.
It's on the letter where she wants to add
Just-
"and."
Right, but I don't see the positions.
Here, mine's marked.
On the
if you wanna
plans
look at it.
examiner? I don't,
That's what you're looking for.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay. Thank you. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then, a motion to call for this, please.
So moved.
Perfect. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
Ms. Thompson,
Yep.
were we allowed to have questions on that?
Yes.
Okay. I know it's still like yours or whatever. I was just curious is plans examiner a new position and how we have plans examined currently?
Mrs. Eisen.
This would be a new position. We currently contract out a plans examiner. So the
Okay.
idea would be able to directly have our own.
Okay. Do you know how much it usually costs when we contract it out?
I believe it's $90. Is that right? 90.
So currently we contracted with Oak Group. Gentleman's name is Charles Corcoran. And it is, we're contracted at $90 an hour. That $90 an hour is from the time that he has a plan in his hand and then as he's reviewing them. So it's a system where he, and it's billed to the quarter of the hour.
Okay. And the city pays for it, or does the person like applying for the permit to have the plans done pay for it?
So it's a cost, professional service that we do pay for.
Okay. Is doing it through the Oak Group different than if like a plan that might go through like the Summit County Building Department?
So Summit County Building Department is actually our backup.
Okay.
So we do have an agreement with them too, if for some reason that we were to have to, that they would be our backup now. But now, you're talking a plan, so previously it was a private contractor, I'm trying to remember what the actual term is for that, it's slipping my mind right now. And it was done, just like our plumbing inspections, our electrical inspections were done. And that particular person was no longer able to do it. So that's what pushed us to contracting with Oak Group. Now pulling back from Oak Group. So we were able to turn plans around in 2 to 3 days. Went to Oak Group, now it's 2 weeks. What this will allow us to do is to probably get back to the 2 to 3 day window.
Okay.
So it's going to improve our service and save us some time.
And then when you're using your second backup with Summit County, do you know what they charge?
We have not had to use them.
You've never had to use them? Okay. Thank you, that's my question.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
You jumped into amending it and then it flew through
Sure
and I'm like,
did.
oh.
Sure did.
Did I miss my window?
Is there any miscellaneous discussion for finance and personnel? From the body, from the gallery? Is Mr. Flaker still sitting back there? Yep. Do we have anything? Okay, perfect. Okay, hearing none, can I have a motion to adjourn, please? Thank you, and a second?
Second.
Thank you. We are adjourned at 6:54.
Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. That concludes our individual committee meetings. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and we'll come back and begin the regular committee of the whole meeting.
approaching him, you know.
It's okay. All right, we're going to begin here momentarily.
Just roll over your piggies.
Don't do that.
We'll have a Jeopardy
Workout.
ding, 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 ding. Okay. All right, today is Monday, July 15th, 2024. Today's Committee of the Whole meeting for Barberton City Council. I call this meeting to order at 7:09 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Out of that whole time, I did not check, but I'll just, is there any citizens addressing council? It's okay. If they would be in here if they were, so it's the normal. I know they're not shy. They're like, oh yeah, me. All right, there are none. We'll hop into committee reports, and we'll start with street, sidewalk, and lighting with Ms. Beck. Ms. Beck is absent, so we will go to Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Mr. President. Streets, sidewalks, and lighting met on July 15th, 2024 here in council chambers. We had two pieces of legislation. One was from a letter from Michael Teodecki requesting legislation to enter into a contract with GPD Group for preliminary engineering for Worcester Road North at West Hopkins Avenue roundabout. Emergency wording requested. This matter is being held pending the Planning Commission meeting, which is the 17th, this Wednesday. And then we will have a special streets committee meeting on Monday, July 22nd for further discussion. And then we had a request for legislation, a letter from Todd Shreve, Director of Public Service, requesting legislation authorizing the mayor to prepare and submit an application with the Ohio Public Works Commission, OPWC, for 4 infrastructure projects. Emergency wording requested. And we voted that out of committee, and with that is it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. I apologize. We went a little out of order, but I think it'll be all right. I should have called on utilities first, but it's okay. Environmental Health and Social Services, Mrs. Hager.
Thank you, Mr. President. Environmental Health and Social Services met this evening in council chambers. We had no requests for legislation, no pending legislation. We did speak briefly about mosquitoes and ticks, and Councilman Griffin let me know about a truck that was spraying while children were out, and other than that, that was it, and with that I pass.
Thank you, Mrs. Hager. Planning, Annexation, and Codes with Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. Planning, Annexation, and Codes is calling for the appointment of David Sykes to the Barberton Board of Zoning Appeals for a term starting immediately and ending through December 31st, 2028. With that, I pass.
Thank you, Mr. Heidick. City Properties, Parks, and Recreation with Mr. Cheatham.
Thank you, Mr. President. City Properties, Parks, and Recreation met July 8th, 2024, and we had one legislation, a letter from Mayor Judge requesting the ordinance approving of lease of building located at 459 through 467 West Tusk Avenue and 94 Worcester Road North, commonly known as the Cox Powell Harold Buildings, with tenant Historic Harold Powell LLC. And it was voted out of committee, and that's all we have. And with that, I pass.
Thank you, Mr. Cheatham. I'm sorry. Nope, that assessment didn't run through parks. It ran through utilities and finance, correct? Okay, on my sheet it said parks. All right. Public Welfare and Safety with Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Mr. President. Public Welfare and Safety met on July 8th, 2024. We had no request for legislation, no pending, and with that, I pass.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Rules, Marketing, Development, Ms. Gerhart.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Rules, Marketing, and Development Committee has nothing to report this evening, and with that, I pass.
Thank you, Ms. Gerhart.
Welcome.
City Utilities, Mr. Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. President. City Utilities met on July 8th, 2024. All members were present, and guests as noted. We had no new legislation to call for, but we did have pending legislation that was voted on. We had a resolution number 57-2024, titled Grant Application, Ohio Department of Natural Resources, ODNR, Tucson Farm Wetland Restoration, a resolution of the Council of the City of Barberton supporting and authorizing the city to submit a funding application to the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, ODNR, H2 Ohio, for Tucson Farm Wetland Restoration and Stream Creation Project, and declaring an emergency. We voted on that last week. With that, I pass on that one, but okay, City Utilities, we met tonight. All members were present except Ms. Beck was absent, and all others noted. We had one piece of legislation to call for tonight. A letter from Todd Shreve, Director of Public Service, requesting legislation to authorize the mayor to prepare and submit an application with the Ohio Public Works Commission, OPWC, for 4 infrastructure projects. The emergency wording requested. It was referred to streets. We had to invoke Council Rule 702 to suspend Council Rule 302. A motion was made and voted on it, and we passed it. With that, I pass, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Last but not least, Finance and Personnel, Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last week, council voted on the resolution 57-2024, which Mr. Griffin just mentioned, the title grant application, Ohio Department of Natural Resources, Tucson Farm Wetland Restoration. That failed. And then council passed 2 ordinances regarding transferring money to the Planning Department's Operation and Maintenance Fund in the amount of $151,402.68. Those both passed. And then the committee met this evening at 6:15 here in council chambers. All members of the committee were present, as well as all other council members with the exception of Mrs. Beck. We had several requests for legislation, and we have called for the first being a letter from Jeremy Flaker requesting legislation to transfer $8,000 from the water fund to the general fund. 1 reading and emergency wording requested. The next, transferring those $8,000 from the unappropriated item of the general fund to the law department's operating budget of the general fund. 1 reading, emergency wording requested on that as well. Then we had a referral from Parks, along with a presentation by Steve Kuhn and the architects he's working with. This was a request from Mayor Judge requesting an ordinance approving the lease of the buildings located at 459 through 467 West Tusk and 94 Worcester Road North, commonly known as the Cox Powell Herald Buildings, with tenant Historic Harold Powell LLC. Emergency wording is requested. Next we have a letter from Todd Shreve, Director of Public Service, requesting legislation to certify to the Summit County Auditor special assessments against certain properties. Emergency wording requested with that as well. And then lastly, we had a request from Jamie Eisman, Director of Public Safety, legislation to amend Ordinance 63-2021. And that passed out of committee as well. We adjourned at 6:54, and with that I will pass.
Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. That concludes our committee reports. Is there anything from the body? Anything from department heads? Do you have something, Mr. Griffin? You have something?
Yes.
Thanks.
I've been getting a little questions from people in my neighborhood, and we don't have answers. So last week, we voted on a resolution to submit a funding application to Ohio Department of Natural Resources, ODNR. So once again, South Barberton was thrown under the bus, which is not unusual. The area has been flood prone for over 100 years. I was disappointed, but I wasn't surprised. Barberton has only started flood control measures within the last 12 to 13 years. Before that, all we got was lip service until the water receded. It was forgotten until the next time. I can't speak for the other people in South Barberton, but all I can speak for is myself. I won't forget. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbon. All right. Go ahead.
Since you went over quickly on department heads, I wanted to give a quick update. Worcester State, this past weekend, there was a full shutdown of the intersection. They got most of the concrete out and put base asphalt in. This upcoming weekend, there'll be a full shutdown of the intersection again, where the contractor will remove the remaining parts of the concrete and put in base asphalt. Soon thereafter, they'll put the final coat of 1.25 inches on the top of everything, put the final striping on, and then get a few last touch-ups to that to fully open that intersection. Second thing I want to mention is we will have another opportunity at additional grant monies from another funding source to continue stormwater projects in Barberton. So I'll probably need council support again for yet another opportunity at a funding grant to fund projects. So ahead of that, while council's on break, I may give you some additional information on what flood type projects do for our community and the hopes that additional projects later might have a favorable success at going after funding for stormwater projects. So look forward to that in your email. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Tiotegi. And anything else? All right. I wasn't going to say anything. I really don't bring in federal politics or anything, but as you all heard what happened over the weekend, and it is a sign that our country is heading down our wrong path. So we don't really have the issues that we see federally here. So I just want to say thanks to all the leadership in town and council, and just for being good leaders, right? Not spreading the hate that we see in our federal politics, and continue to do so. So with nothing else from me, Mayor's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. The next Change for Change event will be next Friday, the 26th, at Ignite Brewery for Magic's Ready to Learn. A quick update on the building department. We've had some changeover in employees. One new employee started last Monday. For this year, they've issued over 460 citations. Property maintenance issues, high grass, rental registration. I don't know how that compares to previous years, but I like collecting that data. So it's been quite a bit of citations out there with the work, the employees that we have. So we're adding to that, so things will get better here. If you've been watching the news, you know that Rite Aids are closing throughout the country. Unfortunately, Barberton's not immune to this. When we first heard the possibility of this, we did reach out to the owners of the property and the building. Our goal is to fill that building and that property, repurpose it as quickly as possible with jobs. So we've reached out to them. We're kind of playing that phone tag game right now. And then in terms of Big Lots, that news came out that they were looking at closing 35 to 40 stores, underperforming stores throughout Ohio. We've reached out to them a number of times. We have not heard the status on the Barberton site. You know, these large businesses make business decisions based on profitability. That's it. They aren't required to contact the local municipality. We stay in contact with all businesses in town as much as we can. A lot of these businesses have changeover at the management level. So we'll see what happens with the Big Lots. know what their annual sales are here in town. I don't know what their profitability status is. So we'll keep a thumb on that as best as we can. Some other businesses have closed recently. The restaurant up on the old Ponderosa, if you guys remember that, that closed. That's for sale. Coffee Pot is still operational, but that's for sale. Parasons, we've been in communication with the owner there to try to repurpose that, and have received interest from various restaurant type parties that are interested in that facility. So I could go through a litany of businesses that I remember as a kid that are no longer here. You know, there's a life cycle to everything, and so we do the best we can to keep things alive. But some of these large businesses, again, they make business decisions. They don't care so much about employees or about customers. They care about the profitability. So if you ever have any questions, or your constituents do on these businesses, please reach out. Still taking collections of non-perishables for Christmas in July, benefiting Backham and Salvation Army. With the presentation tonight and Mr. Dotson last week, if council has any questions on the lease agreement with the historic Harold Powell LLC, please let me know as soon as possible so we can respond to your questions with answers in a timely manner. And then just lastly, the health board meeting for next week has been canceled. Any questions?
Thank you, Mayor. If possible, will you be at the planning commission Wednesday?
I'm going to try, yeah.
Could it be cleared up about the first floor? Because I would hate to see them get too far, only for it to be.
I've already sent an email to the planning director. I doubt she's checking her email right now, but the email's been sent.
Thank you.
So, yes. And the other question I have for the planning commission is, here's what the charter says. When do you want us to come to you with projects? Thought, research, planning, applying for grant funds for a study, you know, and it's, I'm assuming that they're going to say, hey, if you've got an idea, throw it out to us. And then if it goes on to the next step, keep us informed until we have to get their permission based on the charter, right? And there's no harm in that as either, but knowing that a lot of things that we look into may not come to fruition, whether that's the funding's not there, it's not the right time for it, or whatever. So that's one of the other questions. But assuming more information, the better, knowing that some of them may not filter out. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. With nothing else, this meeting is adjourned at 7:27 p.m.